To me, you seem like a friend.
Final episode! Woo! We did it! We're done! Yeah! The season is over! Okay, that's a little mean. I'm not, like, celebrating the end of RWBY. Well, possibly the final end of RWBY, but we'll get to that in a minute. I'm just happy that I don't have to keep watching anymore week to week, because I'm sort of done with this season. I think I've had enough time in the Ever After, and I would like to move on. And I get the feeling that the writers did as well. But once again, we'll get to that in a minute. First off, more summer stuff. Haha, I love living. I hope I keep living for the rest of my life. And I quite like this stuff. A lot, actually. I always love seeing Raven.
Nobody suspects anything.
Raven, my beloved.
No.
She is one of my favorite characters in this show, and I always appreciate any chance I get to look at her again. Which, by the way, if any of you guys watching this think that Neo is my only character that I would rescue from this show, Raven is another one. And Coco Adele, my wife, who I love with all my heart. But yeah, it's really cool to see this backstory stuff. Too bad it's only 30 seconds, maybe. But it's something, so I'll take it. Oh, this is awesome. Yeah, more of this, please. Oh, god damn it. The climax of RWBY's arc was pretty good. I like where it ends, but I don't really like what it took to get here. I've already kind of talked a lot about it over the course of the previous episodes, so you can watch those previous episodes to see how I felt about those scenes and how it built to this moment. But I at least appreciate what they were trying to do with it. I think it's a pretty nice message, and I like the way that they conveyed it within the show. I just think it could have been better portrayed within the season is all. And don't worry, everyone. Don't worry. Neo is back. She's safe. She's fine. Thank God. Wait, is she good? Wait, is she good? Let's go! Yeah! Yes! They got my letters! And then they proceeded to kill her off like 10 seconds later. Oh, she did kill herself. Okay. Great. Best character. Fucking killed herself. Great. Awesome. It sucks being a prophet. I called that they were going to do this. I knew that the second this character arc was over, they were just gonna kill her off or find a way to write her out of the show because the writers couldn't think of anything else to do with her. And usually I'm okay with a thinning the herd of the main cast like that. You know, getting rid of superfluous characters that have served their function and have no reason to be in the show anymore. But I'm so biased. I know I am, but there was so much there. There was so much you could have done with Neo, and you just didn't do any of it. And there was such a great storyline in here that was just not seen. And I'm not going to get into a whole thing about it. Let's not. Her ripping apart the Curious Cat was fucking hilarious. My goat. This eats him alive. That's what I'm talking about. That's my goat. I also find it very amusing, considering what happens with Jean and RWBY this season. A main core theme of this season, to me, is the idea that you're good enough as you are, that you don't need to fake who you are or pretend to be someone else in order to feel important. I think that's a nice message. Unless you're Neo, in which case you can go fuck yourself and die in a tree.
Know your fucking place, trash.
Did nobody on the writing staff notice that? Or is there logic that Neo has killed people in the past or is just too far gone to be redeemed? Which, well, regardless, we'll get to the next thing. Let me just drink a cup of my tears and then we'll move on. I do like the scene where RWBY comes back. At least the choreography of it is cool. I think the music's kind of cool. And the team blast RWBY does later on is really funny. Team blast! Let's blast through a sonic speed! Hilariously enough, despite all my bitching about the rat, doing it under the assumption that, yeah, the rat will probably come into play later, it'll probably be an important character eventually, was just kind of a lie. The rat was ultimately completely pointless. It added nothing of value to the story. There was literally no reason for this thing to exist.
I will never leave her side.
I can't believe Neo's dead. I can't believe she's dead. I'm just really sad about that. That's all I'm really upset about that. It's kind of poetic in a way, how this rat kind of just perfectly encapsulates everything wrong with this season in terms of its writing. It's completely pointless. It could have been cut with no issue. It took space away from characters that sorely needed it, but I'm getting ahead of myself.
Like a happy dream I can't remember.
I'm so
Just leave the
glad we
tree,
got to
alright? Like, fucking just get on with it. But then, of course, we couldn't just have the season end here, so they added in this extra, 10-minute long finale thing where the tree just vomits a bunch of exposition about the gods of Remnant beforehand and where they came from, and just kind of ties up some loose ends about the story.
But that is the joy of creating. The not knowing.
Just like how this series doesn't know where the fuck it's going. I would really like to comment on them, but I really hate to say it, but I kind of checked out of the main story a while ago. I could analyze this and analyze what's going on in here and what it could possibly mean for the future of the story, but I can see the finish line. We're almost there.
To such a marvelous transformation.
The rat literally didn't do anything. And once again, to my complete and utter non-shock, they de-aged John at the end of the season and completely rid him of any consequences of anything that happened during this season. Yeah! No consequences! I knew it! No consequences! Yeah! These are things that I joke about, and the show just actually does them. Oh, I'm sorry, he has white streaks in his hair. That shows character growth. That means he did something. And yes, I know that he did something narratively, and he went through an arc, and he learned something, and he grew, and he's a good boy now, or whatever. And maybe I would feel stronger about it if I was connected to those elements, but I wasn't, so this feels less like a justified reward for everything the character went through, and more just a we needed a get out of jail free card for this hole we wrote ourselves into. I guess I might as well mention that basically all of my theories of what the Ever After could be just ended up not being true, and it was kind of just a random other world that created the gods of Remnant and then just kind of did its own thing in the background, and that was kind of it. I guess that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is kind of amusing to me that all of that theory crafting I did, well, kind of lazy, half-assed theory crafting, sort of ended up being completely moot and pointless. The show finally had something that kind of had me questioning what was going on, and it just ended up being really nothing. And the first thing that we thought of was kind of just what it ended up being. So even in universe, Remnant is kind of just an afterthought in the grand scheme of things. There's probably an apt metaphor here, but I can't think of it.
Thank you.
Oh, bye. Let me know how that goes. And that's basically it. Now, I could talk more about how I feel, where the arc kind of landed as a whole, where this volume sort of landed for me in terms of its tiering of the other volumes and how I thought it worked as a story as a whole, but I'll probably save that for the full analysis. There's really only two other things about this season to mention before we sort of move on to that. Well, firstly, the show has so far, as I know at least, not been renewed for a 10th season. I'm getting a lot of this secondhand because there's a lot of information going this and that way, and I'm going to be honest, I don't feel like pouring through hours of Twitter messages just to figure out what the hell is exactly going on. But the point is, there is a very real possibility that this could be the end of the series right here. Now, I can already overhear some of you dancing in the aisles about this, and some of you are probably crying softly into a pillow about this. But the way I see it, it sort of leaves us with two big questions, regardless of how this turns out. One, Are they actually going to greenlight the show for a volume 10? The answer, probably. I mean, look, love or hate the show clearly has a big fandom. And it clearly is something that pulls in viewers and retains attention. The show would not have lasted to season 9 if it did not have some kind of audience. The show would not have gotten this crossover and this crossover and this crossover and this spin-off game and that spin-off game and this spin-off book and this spin-off anime and this spin-off manga, which I'm only just now realizing I haven't read, etc., 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 if it was not popular. To me, it seems more likely than not we will be getting more. At the very least, they will probably do one more movie before the series ends. It's probably more likely that the resources for this next season are currently being allocated to, we'll call them other things, but I'll get to that in a second. So, in my opinion, it's probably more likely than not that RWBY will return, whether you like it or not. But let's take the worst case scenario. Let's say that this is the end for RWBY, for whatever reason it may be. Maybe the budget's not there, maybe they just want a tax write-off, I don't really know, but let's say this is the end to RWBY. That leaves us with the second question. Is this a satisfying ending for the show if this were the last piece of it to happen? Let's put aside any story problems or logical inconsistencies or whatever else your mind can come up with. Just taking it on its own, is this a satisfying finale? Well, thematically, yes. It ends on an optimistic, hopeful note, and I think that's a good thing. It fits what the series is trying to be, and I think it is a sweet, if a little anticlimactic way to end the show. From a narrative perspective, though, there's it's a terrible place to end the show. I probably only dedicate this much time to it, even though this whole segment probably dates the video the second we get any info about a new volume or not, which, if we do get more by the time this video comes up, I will edit a little thing, or maybe I'll put a pinned comment listing that this part of the video is outdated, but think of this as a little time capsule into my own thoughts into the matter. Okay? Okay. The other thing to talk about is the post-credits scene. All right, give me my post-credits scene, because I know you're gonna have one.
The Grim in the Forest.
What?
I've never seen anything like
Oh, it's the fucking Justice League crossover. Oh, And by that, I mean the complete lack of one, because there wasn't any. It was an advertisement for the RWBY x DC crossover. Come on, everybody, let's cheer!
Wait, what? Huh?
I'm not going to be talking much about this because, I mean, it's kind of its own thing, and I wouldn't feel right taking time out of this video that's already bloated enough as is, talking about something that has fucking nothing to do with anything going on. I do think, however, it explains why the show was not greenlit for Volume 10 right away. This is definitely a tinfoil hat thing, but I do think that people that would have worked on Volume 10, or at the very least been contracted out for Volume 10 with the money they had, are being spent on this movie. Especially since this movie is supposed to be a part 1 of 2. I get the feeling that that is where the resources for the original Volume 10 are going right now. But as with everything, I could just be full of it. That's just the way I am looking at it right now, from my very limited perspective. But anyway, Volume 9 is done, and I can finally kick back and relax. Hey, didn't you say you were gonna make an analysis of the full season? God damn it. Hero.